Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Alex Driscoll again from Sweet Georgia Sports, and today I'm joined by the Zach Morris to my AC Slater, other Alex Merritt from Sweet Georgia Sports. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Alex. And of course, it's always a great day to be a dog.
Well, you can actually kind of say that because your dogs beat my Tigers, and I do say beat because to me, there's a difference between winning and beating, and y'all absolutely beat Auburn in the SEC championship game 28-7. That's another video for another time coming up because we'll talk about the Rose Bowl game in a separate video. But anyway, today is actually the early signing period. It is a new rule that the NCAA came up with this year. It goes into effect this year from December 20th, which is today, to December 22nd. Guys can sign early, and when they sign, of course, they are setting it in stone that they're going to their respective universities, whether it be Georgia, South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee, whatever. And it lets schools that they can no longer recruit those guys. And for those 2 days, guys can sign, and then on the first Wednesday in February, that's when the actual big signing day is. And so right now, Georgia is just absolutely tearing it up on the field and on the recruiting trail. According to 27sports.com, that's who we're going to use, Georgia has the third ranked recruiting class in the nation and the first in the SEC, and that is saying something because usually when we talk in terms of recruiting, Alabama's always up there, and it's really saying something that Georgia's up there. So Alex, just go ahead and talk about how Georgia and what Georgia is doing and some of the guys who are expected to sign in this recruiting class.
Well, Alex, I thought last year's class was a fantastic class for Kirby Smart, but I was wrong. This 2018 cycle has just been surreal, honestly. This is a video game type class that we're talking about. This is not something that you would typically get in real life. Kirby Smart has done an excellent job, and all the recruiting coaches have done an excellent job, like Del McGee and Sam Pittman and Jim Chaney. They've done a great job just getting these elite guys and really convincing them that Georgia is the place to be. Of course, you got the headline prospect, Justin Fields, leading the class. He's the second best player in the country next to only Trevor Lawrence, who even then the margin between them is just so narrow. It's really a 1A and 1B type conversation. Then you've got other elite guys like Zamir White, the number one running back recruit in America. You've got guys like James Cook, who is the number three running back in America, and that should also say something that we can get two top three guys at the same position to come to Georgia. That should really say something in itself. Now, moving on to guys that I think will sign with Georgia tomorrow in the early signing period. There are a lot of elite prospects that are signing. You got guys like Micah Parsons out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He's really between Penn State and Georgia, in my opinion. We'll see what happens there. You've got guys like Jamari Salyer and Cade Mays, both five-star offensive linemen. I think Georgia should be the favorite for both of those guys, although Clemson is also trying to make a push as well, especially for Mays. And then lastly, I think another elite prospect Georgia will land tomorrow is Brenton Cox. He was a longtime Ohio State commit, but he decommitted 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's presumed that Georgia is the leader, and I think he would be an excellent addition to the class.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about this class for Georgia, I mean, what Kirby Smart has done the past 2 recruiting cycles at Georgia has been absolutely insane. He's built a wall around Athens and the area and built a wall around the state of Georgia, and he's going to make the SEC and the rest of the country pay for it before too long. I mean, yeah, we talk about the headliner Justin Fields, who is the number 1 dual-threat quarterback in the nation, and he's the number 2 overall guy in both the state and the nation behind, of course, Trevor Lawrence, who is the number 1 overall guy and the number 1 pro-style pocket passer type of guy. And when you said the margin of error between them is very minuscule, I totally and completely agree, because with their composite rating in 24/7 Sports, it's just one decimal point. I mean, because Justin Fields is a 9.998 guy, and then Trevor Lawrence is a 9.999 guy. And so, I mean, the margin of error is very, very slim for these guys. In the the margin of difference, not the margin of error, but the margin of difference for those guys are very, very slim. I think Justin Fields is the better athlete, and in my opinion, Trevor Lawrence is the better overall passer. But time will tell with that. Zamir White out of Scotland County and North Carolina. I mean, number 1 running back overall and best player in the state. Number 6 overall guy in the nation, and then James Cook, Dalvin's brother from Miami. I mean, anytime you can get 2 top 3 running backs, I mean, just to get 2 top 10 running backs is just insane. But to get 2 top 3 guys is absolutely incredible. And of course, y'all pulled Trey Hill this past week. He was in between Auburn and Georgia, and of course, Georgia won that battle. But he is a teammate, or a former teammate, of Jake Fromm at Houston County, and he's going to reunite with Jake Fromm here at Georgia. And again, I can't say enough about this class for Kirby Smart and the Dogs. I mean, they have done an absolute fantastic job of recruiting these past 2 cycles. And in your opinion, who's one guy that's kind of a sleeper in this class? Because we get lost to the names of Justin Fields, Zamir White, Adam Anderson, James Cook, Trey Hill. I mean, who's one guy that some people might be sleeping on, per se?
Well, one guy I was kind of low on shortly after he committed to Georgia, and he committed at the beginning of this fall semester. But I think Azeez Ojulari, the 8th ranked weak defensive end, out of Marietta, Georgia. He's a top 150 prospect. He's got good measurables. He's 6'4", 224 pounds. I've seen his film, and he is an absolute monster on the field. He might not get too much playing time early on just because Georgia's front 7 does have a lot of depth, but I think he'll eventually make a huge impact for the defense.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, when we're talking about weak side defensive ends, that usually means kind of like the third down pass rush and stereotype guys. I mean, right now, I mean, he's 17, 18 years old at 6'4", 224. I mean, that's still really, really big for a 17, 18-year-old, but he still has room to grow out. He could probably expect to add 30 to 40 pounds and grow into 6'4", 254 to 64 type guy. Who knows? And so, I mean, if he fits that profile, I mean, he's going to be a monster on that defensive line. And so, moving on from Georgia's stellar class, we're going to go to the city of Atlanta and check in with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I'll kind of take the lead here, but nationally, I mean, they're ranked 44th. They're 8th in the ACC in recruiting, because you're going to have to go up against Clemson and Florida State, who always post top 25 classes and top 15 classes year in and year out, and also Maryland, who's been making quite a bit of noise on the recruiting trail in the ACC. So far, the top recruit for the Jackets is Jalen King out of Ensworth High School in Nashville, Tennessee. He's listed as an athlete at 6'1", 170. He's a 4-star. He is the 15th best athlete in the state, of Tennessee, and he is nationally ranked as the 327th best player in the nation. For Georgia Tech, I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but it also is one of Paul Johnson's better classes. And AJ, just talk about how Georgia Tech can recruit a little bit.
Well, I actually wanted to say one thing, because I know someone will bring it up in the comments section, but Maryland is not in the ACC anymore. They've been in the Big Ten.
I'm sorry. My bad. That's my bad.
But I just wanted to get that out of the way. Anyways, back to Georgia Tech. Obviously, Georgia Tech has never been a powerhouse as a recruiting school, at least under Paul Johnson. But when it comes to the way Paul Johnson coaches, he doesn't really need elite recruits. And, of course, you got guys like Georgia who, name recognition, just that brand that they've been, really bringing out the last few years. They're a powerhouse school, so recruiting like they have been is almost natural for a school like Georgia. But when it comes to Georgia Tech, who doesn't have that kind of name and that kind of brand, the fact that they're still able to, get decent classes, it should say something about Paul Johnson. And you also got to think Georgia Tech is a powerhouse academic school, so they can't really recruit all those elite guys. And I mean, no offense to them, but they hold their student athletes to higher standards academically, so it makes it a little tougher to find elite recruits like that. So overall, I think Johnson's done a good job given what he's had.
Yeah, I mean, usually when you're talking about Georgia Tech, they usually find guys that fit their system with that triple option that Paul Johnson runs, and usually they're very, very good at it. Usually lead the nation in rushing, and with all that and all that good stuff, they usually, in kind of my terms, kind of layman's terms, they get the SEC rejects. They get the guys that don't go to the bigger and better SEC schools. They get the guys that kind of fall through the cracks, and kind of like the SEC rejects is kind of like what I like to call them. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up. Share it with friends and family, fellow fans of either Georgia Tech or Georgia. Alex, if you want to say go Dogs, because I'm not a Georgia fan, you can go ahead and say go Dogs.
I will go ahead and give a fat, big go Dogs.
All right. Well, I might actually have to say it coming up because, of course, me and you, off video, we made a bet in the SEC championship game. Whoever the loser was, they had to wear the winner's t-shirt, and so I have to find me a Georgia t-shirt, and I will say go Dogs on video on all social media here. But anyway, again, that's going to do it for us. I've been Alex Driscoll for Alex Merritt. We're saying God bless, and have a very Merry Christmas too, if this is the last time we talk to y'all before Christmas. And see you later, folks.